How's it going, everyone? So, going to jump back in to a 200 play and explain PLO 4 card, exact same as yesterday. So the VPIP is 30. We have bomb pots in play, and starting on the left-hand table, we have Ace King Queen 9. Not super stellar, but we are in a VPIP game, and this player does have a wider RFI. So I'm actually going to 3-bet this and isolate them. This plays very well, or this plays decent versus a wider range. We actually can push some raw equity, and it doesn't play very well multi-way. So also, I'm going to try 2 tables instead of 4 tables today. I was going back through some of my footage I've uploaded with 4 tables, and I think it's a little bit hard to follow along with, both from viewing and from me explaining my thought process. Yeah, let's go half here. We're just going to barrel off for value. This club's actually pretty simple. Just bet when you have it. So we're gonna try 2 tables. See if I can. The action will be a little bit slower, but hopefully I can explain my thought process a little bit more clearly, and we will go from there. And probably gonna bluff catch this player. I'm not a big fan of bluff catching in this club in general. That being said, draw is missed. They're going to bet a lot of the straights on the turn. We do block straights. I shouldn't check this one back. This one's actually getting pretty close. These bots and bomb pots really aren't amazing. I still am a fan of leading for a small sizing. Basically, my strategy is lead for a small sizing to clean up a little bit of equity. And then once we've narrowed ranges to the turn, I typically try to take a bit more of a passive line. I'm trying to think if we want to switch tables because we're pretty card dead here. We're not really gonna, well, we're gonna struggle with the VPIP. Got a couple tables. Again, I'm only gonna run 2 tables and just, let's actually do this. Let's sit these 2. That way we can start with a fresh VPIP. And we will get this squared away in 1 second. Yeah, so going back to that, I like leading small because this cleans up a little bit of equity, but it also narrows our opponent's range enough, but not entirely, to 5s and Jack X when we go small. We still can invite some calls with aces, kings that are stubborn, etc., etc. But once we bet flop and bet turn, we've now narrowed our opponent's range to 5s and better Jack X to where we really can't go for a third value bet, in my opinion. So what do we have going on here? We have a pot donk and a pot jam. I'm not a big fan of pot donking in bomb pots, to be honest. I know I spoke a little bit on it in the last play and explain, but for the biggest reason, we just allow our opponents to play their ranges very easily. And I'm going to just call here. This is really not a thing either. A little bit spewy. Our goal in bomb pots is not to play afraid. It's not to scare everyone off. It's still, the goal is still to make money. Every single time we're in a pot, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, the objective is to see a return, and the highest return we can. So trying to just pot and try to get immediate folds, it's just not really a thing. Get a call here. We block kings. He's going to bet a lot of his ace king. This player can get out of line. Rivers are going to be a bit dicey, but on a number of river bricks, we can just call off their bluff catches. And we don't really have to worry about this player behind too often, given how capped their range has become. So ace 8 7 4, fine open. Check is probably fine. Turn is close. Turn's interesting. So I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure about these spots. Um, I'm trying to run a lot less big bluffs, and for this to work, we could get it through for a third, but it's very rare. Sets aren't folding. Players do not fold flushes in bomb pots, even when they should. So, for me, the king of clubs here is really not enough, just because players are, again, way too sticky. It's getting tempting now, though. So I think we are actually going to bet pot river. Bet turn, and then pot river, I think. Look at some tendencies from our opponent. Our opponent doesn't have a high went to river showdown, so I think they're going to have a little bit of queen 10 with club, with a club blocker, but it's less likely. I'm going to pot river. And again, I'm going to be honest, I've ran into a few of these spots. I'm probably going to talk this over with a couple of potentially greater minds than myself and get their thought process. Because a lot of these, what seems like could be clear bluff barrels, in my opinion, they become less clear the less fold equity we have in game, and we just don't have a ton in game in this specific club. So I'm still trying to figure out the best adjustments for both this pool as well as these limits. And it is a process. But we're getting there. Queen 10, 10, 4, double suited. We have a limp in ISO, full pot ISO. Small 3-bet on the button. Always check your opponent's 3-bets behind, in my opinion. Probably just going to fold that. So, a lot of my decisions really come from how 3-bet heavy my opponents are behind. For example, if someone's 3-betting 15, 20%, this is a snap fold. The only reason I'm even really considering is because we are in VPIP land. The 4 is pretty bad though, so we can probably just fold and not lose sleep over it. But how often your players 3-bet behind really dictates or determines how often we will realize our equity out of position versus them, as well as realize equity in general. So we're naturally going to realize more equity in position. So if Lex or PW Nichols does decide to, I'm going to squeeze here, does decide to 3-bet, not a big deal, but it does become a much bigger deal when the button decides to 3-bet, and we still have to play a relatively reasonable SPR out of position, especially with a hand that flops pretty rough. So bad flop for our range. And do we ever do anything besides just call? I think we're going to fake, tank, call, try to induce. I think. We do get the double up. Yeah, so had a bit of a not amazing day yesterday. And even though I was about as Well, the deck was about as nasty as I think it could have been. I also don't think I adjusted as well as I could have, and I probably lost more than I needed to. And that's one thing I'm always trying to work on, and I think I still have a lot of work to do on it, is trying to just lose the minimum when the deck is completely against you. Um, it's very easy when the deck is against you to call a little bit wider, bluff catch a little bit more. We're all human, and we all have emotions, and we all have tilt. I don't care who you are, everyone tilts. It's just to what degree. Even Galfon tilts, but again, it's to a far lesser degree. But during those cold stretches, it really is just about saving money. And saving money is making money. Saving money is preserving your win rate in this game. 9775, we don't need to VPIP yet. We could definitely consider 3-betting this. We also get to play deep in position, which is not a bad thing. So just going to check the 6642 table 2. And we do get a squeeze from Joshua. Start with a check to check fold on table 2. We are not folding. We do have absolute position, the best visibility, some nutted equity, and I think players squeeze a little bit out of line in this club. And on the nine of clubs, just going to check. We're basically checking this one up. On a river 4 or 2, I'm probably going to bet half pot. And without a single heart blocker, it stings because he checked pretty quickly, so I would actually get pretty aggressive with a heart blocker here, but just can't do enough. Yeah, it's one of those things where this is extremely tempting, but we need some blocking effect. We can't just go blind here. This isn't Hold'em. A lot of times his 2 green aces are going to win here. Or not. Very easy check back. We want to see turns. We don't want to start building a pot, and getting check raised is a bit of a nightmare. Interesting turn. Very interesting turn. All right, that's cup 1 of coffee. Round 2 coming up. So we get the cold call from the big blind as well as the EP opener. Very good flop for us to c-bet. So from a range perspective, we don't do a ton of c-betting on 5-6. That being said, we can leverage aces with diamonds. We're stacking blockers. Triple backdoor hearts actually works very nice here as well, as it blocks some of the lighter overpair floats and draws that basically are indifferent between call and fold. And a lot of times what will push them over the edge is that backdoor flush draw. And turn, I'm just going to pile. We unblock. Yeah, this is just whatever. If you have ace or jack 10, he's going to have a lot of king queen here. Yeah, this is, it's going to say almost his exact hand. I'm going to say king queen 10 type combos. And we do get a c-bet from the PFA, which shouldn't be a big thing here, to be honest, which lets me know this player is either playing their hand and they hit this flop hard, or they don't really understand how ranges perform on this flop. And they could just be blindly c-betting maybe queens or jacks, something a little bit mergy. And This is very close. I don't think this is a mistake for him to call, but I think it's very close, given he can have reverse implieds on diamonds. His hearts are probably good. Obviously, the backdoor, I mean, the turn's semi-gin for him. First continues. So I don't think it's bad, but I think it's a little bit close. Just, 3-bet the ace a6 2. And interesting flop because our 3-bet range doesn't really hit this flop that hard. So from a theory point of view, we should be checking back enough. But I don't care about theory when it comes to these limits. I still think we can get some wider floats, and 4-5 is just not going to be enough of his range. We also have backdoor diamonds we can barrel, so it is a touch, or potentially a touch merging in theory land. I'm actually going to check that one. I haven't looked at those flops in 3-bet pots in a while, so not entirely confident what the overall strategy is. I just know that doesn't hit our range extremely well. And I'm going to raise here. Are we? Yes. It is a touch wide with the deuce, but I don't really like to adopt a late position limping range too often, unless somebody's heavily 3-betting behind, which we don't have. We boost the VPIP, and we do have a little bit of multi-way playability if we do go multi-way, as well as have a hand that plays okay on a number of flops. Doesn't flop too rough, I don't think. Open the Rainbow Kings on the bottom left. And versus a reasonable small blind range, this is actually a very good flop. Versus a more creative small blind range, which is closer to the 50%, not so much. I think I actually don't mind betting this. Solver does do a little bit of merchant betting here. Gonna squeeze aces for the 40th time, see if we can win one of these. Just gonna check back. We no longer have 3 streets of value, but we can bluff catch some rivers, as well as value bet some rivers. And we do want block 8-9. He's not going to have 10s almost ever. He's also going to bet most Jack 7 and 10 Jack, so I think we're going to polarize and try to get some value from Ace 10 as well as 8-9. I think once we start blocking the 8 and the 9, we want to go smaller, but that might be just being a little bit too picky. And on this flop, we can just pile here and really not make any mistakes even on turn spades because we're going to have the equity. I don't want to go small here to try to get him to reopen the action because we block a ton of what he can reopen with. And given the SPR is already pretty low, I don't think we want to exercise a small sizing at that SPR. I think we want a little bit more top of range type combos to consider slow playing. Or not slow playing, but trying to draw opponents in with a little bit weaker. Open the Ace King King early position. Ace King King single suit is basically a pure open from EP. Very strong hand. If we did get 3-bet, this would be a very good 4-bet candidate. I think Ace Queen Queen's actually a little bit better, given we unblock kings now, and kings often should be a 3-bet fold. At least in theory land. And I'm going to go ahead and lead here, or excuse me, c-bet. Not a high c-bet in general. That being said, we are against 2 whale ranges, which are going to far often miss this flop. And I'm going to go half and then block river. I Yeah, not a typical line I would take versus a stronger calling range, but versus a wider range, I know we obviously had a 4 there, but we can just get a ton of value from Ace Jack, Queen Jack. Hey everyone, Tilty Fish here. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this content and would like more, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time.